I always thought I'd cry at my sister's wedding. I just never imagined it would be because she left her fiancé standing alone at the altar while I watched 300 guests dissolve into chaos. My name is Juliet, and I've spent 29 years being Sophia's younger sister, the other daughter, the reliable one, the one who was currently chasing after her sister's abandoned groom while everyone else was busy gossiping and heading for the exits. I found Brian in the church garden, his bow tie loose around his neck, staring at nothing. The late autumn wind whipped around us, scattering fallen leaves across the perfectly manicured lawn. "She left a note," he said without looking at me, holding up a folded piece of paper. "I need to find myself. I'm sorry." That's all she wrote. I sat beside him on the stone bench. "I'm so sorry, Brian. I had no idea she would do something this selfish." He laughed, but it was hollow. "Maybe I should have seen it coming. Your sister always did whatever she wanted. Consequences be damned." "Let me help," I said, reaching for my phone. "I can start calling the vendors, the hotel." "You don't have to clean up her mess." "I want to." I touched his arm gently. "You shouldn't have to deal with this alone." His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw him, really saw him, not as Sophia's fiancé, but as a man whose heart had just been shattered. "Thank you, Juliet." The next few hours passed in a blur of phone calls and damage control. I coordinated with the reception venue while Brian spoke with his family. My parents were beside themselves, more concerned about their reputation than their future son-in-law's feelings. "What will people say?" Mom kept repeating, pacing the church office. "The Waltons, all their friends? This is a disaster." "Mom, please," I said, covering the phone's mouthpiece. "I'm trying to cancel the honeymoon arrangements." "Your sister has ruined everything," Dad growled, his face red with anger. "All our connections, all our planning." I hung up the phone and turned to them. "Can we focus on helping Brian right now? He's the one who was just abandoned on his wedding day." "Of course you'd defend him," Mom snapped. "You've always been jealous of your sister's relationship." The words stung, but I kept my voice steady. "I'm being a decent human being. You should try it sometime." I left them sputtering and found Brian in the parking lot, loosening his cufflinks. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the empty church grounds. "The honeymoon's canceled," I said. "Full refund, thankfully, and the hotel will handle the reception food donation." "You're amazing," he said softly. "I don't know what I would have done without you today." "Probably punched something expensive." He smiled, a real smile this time. "Want to grab a drink? I could use one, and I hate the thought of being alone right now." I hesitated. "Are you sure? People might talk." "Let them. You're the only person who's shown me real kindness today. Everyone else is either pitying me or blaming me." We ended up at a quiet bar across town, both still in our wedding attire. I'd kicked off my heels under the table, and Brian had shed his jacket. 2 glasses of whiskey sat between us. "Tell me something," he said, swirling the amber liquid. "Was she always like this? So, careless with other people's feelings?" I took a sip before answering. "Sophia lives in Sophia's world. The rest of us are just supporting characters in her story." "Including you?" "Especially me." I traced the rim of my glass. "Do you know what it's like growing up with someone who outshines you in every way? Someone who takes up all the oxygen in the room?" Brian leaned forward. "I think you sell yourself short, Juliet. You're not in anyone's shadow, not today at least." Our eyes met across the table, and something shifted in the air between us. A moment of recognition, perhaps, or understanding. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mom demanding to know where I was, but I ignored it. "To new beginnings," Brian said, raising his glass. I clinked mine against his, trying to ignore the flutter in my chest. To new beginnings. As we sat there talking into the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had changed. I just didn't know if I was ready for what that might mean. 3 weeks after the wedding that wasn't, I found myself at Brian's office, helping him sort through the mountain of returned gifts. The winter sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the cardboard boxes scattered around us. Another crystal vase, I said, rewrapping it carefully. That makes 7? 8. Brian checked something off his list. Rich people really lack imagination when it comes to wedding gifts. At least they're easier to return than the monogrammed items, he grimaced. Don't remind me about those towels. Paris, my best friend, appeared in the doorway with coffee. You two look like you're having way too much fun with other people's terrible taste. Join us, I said, patting the carpet beside me. We're making a drinking game out of how many serving platters we find. Can't. Some of us have actual work to do. She handed me my latte. Though I have to say, Jules, you've gotten awfully comfortable in the CEO's office. I felt my cheeks warm as Brian looked up from his list. Juliet's been invaluable these past weeks. I don't know how I would have handled all this without her. Paris hummed knowingly, giving me a pointed look before heading back to her desk. We worked in comfortable silence for a while, our hands occasionally brushing as we passed items back and forth. Each touch sent little sparks through my skin, making it harder to concentrate. Have dinner with me tonight, Brian said suddenly. I dropped the silver picture frame I was holding. What? Dinner, you and me, somewhere nice. He ran a hand through his hair, looking nervous for the first time since I'd known him. Not as a thank you, as a date. My heart hammered against my ribs. Brian, people will talk. They're already talking. Half the office thinks we're having a torrid affair. And the other half thinks I'm an idiot for not asking you out sooner. He moved closer, taking my hands in his. I know the timing is complicated, but these past weeks with you, I've never felt more seen, more understood. I'm still her sister, I whispered. You're you. That's who I want to have dinner with. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Paris. Say yes, you idiot. I can see you overthinking from here. I laughed, showing Brian the message. Apparently, we have an audience. Is that a yes? I took a deep breath. Yes. That evening, I stood in front of my closet while Paris lounged on my bed, critiquing outfit choices. The black dress, she insisted. It's sexy but not trying too hard. This is crazy, right? I pulled on the dress. He was supposed to marry my sister. Your sister who abandoned him and hasn't contacted anyone in almost a month? Paris sat up. Jewel, stop looking for reasons this won't work. You deserve to be happy. But, no buts. I've watched you dim your light for Sophia your entire life. It's your turn to shine. The restaurant Brian chose was intimate, tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. As the waiter poured our wine, I noticed Brian's hands shaking slightly. Are you nervous? I asked, surprised. Terrified. He smiled. I really don't want to mess this up. Why would you mess it up? Because you matter, Juliet. More than I expected. More than I was prepared for. Before I could respond, a familiar voice cut through the moment like a knife. Brian? Juliet? Nathaniel, Brian's business partner, stood at our table, his expression darkening as he took in the scene. Well, he said coldly, this is interesting timing. Nathaniel, Brian started, having dinner with your runaway bride's sister? Really? He shook his head. I expected better from you, Brian. And you, he turned to me. I thought you had more class than this. I felt the blood drain from my face as other diners began to stare. Brian stood up, his voice low and dangerous. That's enough, Nathaniel. You don't know what you're talking about. I know what this looks like to everyone else, to our investors. I don't care what it looks like. Brian's hand found mine across the table. Juliet is the best thing that's happened to me in a long time. Nathaniel scoffed and walked away. The moment he left, my phone lit up with a text. My heart stopped as I read it. "What is it?" Brian asked, concern etching his features. I turned the phone to show him the message from Mom. "Sophia's coming home." The wine suddenly tasted bitter in my mouth as I realized our complicated situation was about to become impossible. Sophia swept into our parents' house like a hurricane in designer boots, dropping her bags in the foyer as if the past month hadn't happened. I watched from the kitchen doorway as Mom and Dad fawned over her. Their prodigal daughter returned. "India was just life-changing," she gushed, flipping her perfect hair. "I had this amazing spiritual awakening at an ashram." "You abandoned your wedding for an ashram?" I couldn't help interrupting. She turned to me with that familiar condescending smile. "Jules, sweetie, you look different. Have you lost weight?" "No, I've just found my backbone." Mom shot me a warning look. "Girls, please, Sophia's just gotten home. Let's not start." "Start what?" I asked. "Talking about how she left 300 people stranded at a church? How she didn't even have the decency to tell Brian to his face." "I needed to find myself," Sophia said, as if that explained everything. "Speaking of Brian, how is he?" The casual way she said his name made my blood boil. "Why don't you ask him yourself?" "Oh, wait, you blocked his number." "Juliet," Dad snapped. "That's enough. Your sister made a difficult decision." "A selfish decision," I corrected. Sophia's eyes narrowed. "You seem awfully defensive of my ex-fiancé." The room went silent. I felt the weight of their stares, waiting for my response. Before I could speak, the doorbell rang. "That'll be Paris," I said, grabbing my coat. "We're having lunch." "Actually," Sophia called after me, "I thought I might stop by Brian's office today. You know, clear the air." I froze with my hand on the doorknob. "Don't." "Why not?" Her voice dripped with false innocence. "Unless there's a reason I shouldn't?" I yanked open the door, relief flooding through me at the sight of Paris's concerned face. She took one look at my expression and pulled me outside. "Sophia's back," I said as soon as we were in her car. "I gathered. You look like you've seen a ghost." "She wants to see Brian." Paris pulled away from the curb, cursing under her breath. "Of course she does. The moment you're happy, she has to swoop in and try to take it." "What if—" "Don't," Paris cut me off. "Don't you dare doubt what you and Brian have. Call him right now and warn him." I pulled out my phone, but a text from Brian was already waiting. "Sophia just showed up at my office. Can you come?" 20 minutes later, I rushed through the lobby of Brian's building, my heart pounding. The elevator seemed to take forever, each floor a torture of imagination running wild. When I reached his floor, I heard Sophia's laugh floating down the hallway. I rounded the corner to find her perched on the edge of Brian's desk, while he stood by the window, arms crossed. "Remember that weekend in the Hamptons?" she was saying. "When we snuck away from that charity gala?" "I remember you left me there to go shopping with your friends," Brian replied coldly. "Oh, don't be like that." She stood, moving toward him. "We had good times, didn't we? Before I got scared?" "Scared?" His laugh was bitter. "Is that what you're calling it?" "I made a mistake," she said softly, reaching for his hand. "I know that now. After all this soul-searching, I realized what really matters. I should have announced my presence, should have interrupted, but I found myself frozen in the doorway, watching this familiar scene play out. Sophia always got what she wanted, always. "What matters," Brian said, pulling his hand away, "is that I'm seeing someone." Sophia's perfect smile faltered. "What? Who? Me, I said, finally finding my voice. Sophia whirled around, her eyes widening as she took in my presence. For a moment, genuine shock crossed her face before it morphed into something harder. My own sister, she said quietly. How long have you been waiting to steal my life? Brian moved to stand beside me. She didn't steal anything you didn't throw away. So this is revenge? Sophia laughed, but it was sharp and ugly. Little Jules finally getting back at Big Sister by taking her leftovers? That's enough, Brian snapped, but I touched his arm. No, let her talk, I said. It's all she knows how to do. Talk about herself, make everything about her. Even now, you can't see past your own ego to realize that Brian and I might actually care about each other. Care about each other? Sophia's voice rose. It's been a month. A month where she showed me more kindness and understanding than you did in 2 years. Brian said. Sophia grabbed her bag, her movements sharp and angry. At the door, she turned back to us. This isn't over. You both know this isn't right. As her heels clicked down the hallway, I felt Brian's arms wrap around me from behind. You okay? He whispered. No, I admitted, but I will be. She's poisoning everyone against me, I said, pacing Paris's living room. You should see the looks I get at family dinners, like I'm some kind of homewrecker. Paris handed me a glass of wine. Sophia's just doing what she does best, playing the victim. Mom keeps saying I'm confused about my feelings. Dad barely speaks to me. I collapsed onto the couch. And don't get me started on their country club friends. Screw them. Paris sat beside me. What does Brian say about all this? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Another text from Sophia. We need to talk, alone. Speak of the devil, I muttered, showing Paris the message. Don't go, she warned. It's a trap. If I don't, she'll just show up somewhere unexpected. Better to face her on my terms. I agreed to meet Sophia at a cafe downtown, choosing a public place on purpose. When I arrived, she was already there, stirring her latte with calculated precision. You're looking well, she said as I sat down. Love suits you. Cut the act, Sophia. What do you want? She leaned forward, dropping her voice. I want you to think about what you're doing. Really think about it. Do you honestly believe Brian loves you? Yes, I said firmly. I do. Or does he love how much I hurt him and you're just convenient? The words hit their mark, but I kept my face neutral. Is that what you tell yourself to sleep at night? I'm trying to protect you, she insisted. You're setting yourself up for heartbreak. The moment I decide I want him back. That's the difference between us, I cut in. You see Brian as something to want or not want. I see him as someone to love. Her perfectly manicured nails tapped against the table. You've always wanted what was mine. My clothes, my friends, my spotlight. Your hand-me-downs, you mean? The friends who only tolerated me because of you? The spotlight you made sure I never had? Mom and Dad are devastated. She tried a different angle. This is tearing our family apart. No, your actions tore our family apart. I'm just finally standing up for myself. Sophia's face hardened. Fine, have it your way, but don't come crying to me when this all falls apart. She stood to leave, but paused. Oh, and Jules? Brian likes his coffee with 2 sugars, no cream. But you probably knew that already, right? I waited until she left before letting out the breath I'd been holding. My hands shook as I pulled out my phone to call Brian. Hey, his voice came through warm and steady. Everything okay? Can you meet me? I need to ask you something. 20 minutes later, we sat on a park bench, watching kids play on the swings. Do you still love her? I asked quietly. Brian turned to face me fully. No, I don't think I ever really did. But listen to me, He took my hands in his. What I felt for Sophia it was like looking at a beautiful painting. You can admire it, but you can't connect with it. With you, I feel seen, really seen. She said I was convenient. You're the least convenient thing in my life right now. He laughed. My business partner barely speaks to me. My mother keeps asking if I've lost my mind, and I'm pretty sure your father is plotting my murder. Despite everything, I smiled. So, why bother? Because when I'm with you, none of that matters. Because you challenge me, support me, make me laugh. Because I'm falling in love with you, Juliet, and it terrifies me in the best possible way. My heart stopped. What did you just say? I love you. He said it simply, certainly. I probably shouldn't say it yet, but I do. And if that makes me crazy or inappropriate or whatever else people want to call it, then so be it. I kissed him then, right there in the park, not caring who saw or what they might think. When we pulled apart, I was crying. I love you too, I whispered. And it terrifies me too. My phone buzzed, another message from Sophia, but I ignored it. For once in my life, I wasn't going to let her ruin my moment. Want to really give people something to talk about? Brian asked, a mischievous glint in his eye. What did you have in mind? There's a charity gala next week. Come with me. As my date, let's stop hiding. I thought about Sophia's threats, my parents' disappointment, the whispers and stares we'd face. Then I looked at Brian's hopeful face and made my decision. Yes, I said, let's give them something to talk about. The gala was in full swing when Mom cornered me by the champagne fountain. I'd managed to avoid her for the first hour, staying close to Brian as we worked the room. What do you think you're doing? She hissed, gripping my arm. Half the board members are here. Do you have any idea how this looks? I gently pulled away. Like two consenting adults attending a charity event together? Like a sister stealing her sibling's fiancé. She glanced around, lowering her voice. Sophia is devastated. She's been crying all week. Funny, her Instagram shows her partying at that new rooftop bar last night. She looked devastated. You used to be such a good girl, Mom said, shaking her head. What happened to you? I grew up, found my voice, fell in love. Love? She laughed bitterly. You don't know the first thing about love. This is infatuation mixed with revenge. Before I could respond, Brian appeared at my side, placing a protective hand on my lower back. Is everything all right here? He asked, though his tone suggested he knew it wasn't. Brian, Mom's voice turned syrupy sweet. I was just telling Juliet how unexpected this all is. Mrs. Hanson, he said firmly, I care deeply for your daughter. The sooner you accept that, the easier this will be for everyone. Easier? She clutched her pearls. Do you have any idea what this is doing to our family? To our reputation? Your reputation? I felt something snap inside me. What about my reputation? Being known as Sophia's shadow for 29 years, always the backup plan, the reliable one, the one who cleans up her messes? People were starting to stare. Dad appeared suddenly, his face red with anger. Lower your voice, he ordered. You're making a scene. No, I'm standing up for myself. There's a difference. I took Brian's hand, and I'm done apologizing for being happy. If you leave with him now, Dad warned, don't bother coming home. Brian squeezed my hand. We can go if you want. I looked around the ballroom at all the familiar faces pretending not to watch our family drama unfold. Nathaniel stood by the bar, smirking. A group of Mom's friends whispered behind their hands. And there, by the entrance, Sophia had just arrived, wearing a dress that screamed, "Notice me." No, I said firmly. We're staying. I have every right to be here. Dad's face darkened. Then you leave us no choice. Brian, I'm sure the board would be interested to know about certain irregularities in the company's recent acquisitions. Brian stiffened beside me. Are you threatening me? I'm reminding you that actions have consequences. That's enough. A new voice cut through the tension. Paris stepped forward, her phone held up. I just recorded that entire exchange. I wonder how the board would feel about attempted blackmail. Dad paled. Mom grabbed his arm. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Paris smiled sweetly. I have a whole folder of receipts, texts, emails, recordings of Sophia admitting she planned to leave Brian at the altar weeks before the wedding. Wanna test me? A heavy silence fell over our group. Across the room, I saw Sophia freeze, her expression shifting from confidence to panic. Now, Paris continued, I suggest you all return to your tables. The charity auction is about to begin, and I hear there's a lovely vacation package up for bid. My parents retreated, shooting venomous looks over their shoulders. Sophia disappeared into the crowd. That was amazing. I hugged Paris. Thank you. Please, she grinned. I've been waiting years to put them in their place, though I was bluffing about most of those receipts. Brian laughed, wrapping an arm around my waist. Remind me never to get on your bad side. Speaking of sides, Paris nodded toward the stage. Isn't that your company's proposal they're about to present? Brian checked his watch. Yes, and I have an announcement to make. He turned to me. Actually, I have two announcements, one for them and one for you. What do you mean? He took both my hands in his. The board is voting on a new creative director for our digital division. I'm recommending you for the position. Me? I gasped. But I don't even work for your company. But you've been practically running our social media crisis management for the past 2 months. The numbers speak for themselves. People will say, let them, he interrupted. You're qualified, talented, and exactly what we need. Take the job because you deserve it, not because of us. I looked into his eyes, seeing nothing but sincerity and love. And the second announcement? He smiled, reaching into his pocket. That one might have to wait until after the auction. Unless you want to steal Sophia's thunder twice in one lifetime? My heart skipped a beat as I realized what he was suggesting. Across the room, I caught Sophia watching us, her face unreadable. The night was far from over. The auction dragged on for what felt like hours. I could feel the weight of Brian's unspoken question hanging between us, the promise of what was in his pocket making my heart race. Finally, the MC announced a brief intermission. Brian squeezed my hand. Meet me on the terrace in 5 minutes? I nodded, watching him disappear through the French doors. Paris appeared at my elbow, practically vibrating with excitement. He's going to propose, isn't he? I think so, I whispered. Is it too soon? Are we crazy? You're asking the wrong questions, Paris said. The real question is, do you love him? More than I thought possible. Then get your butt out there. I turned toward the terrace, but Sophia stepped into my path. Don't do this, she said, her voice trembling. Please, Jules, I'm begging you. Move, Sophia. You don't understand. She grabbed my arm. I made a terrible mistake. I know that now, but Brian and I have history. History you threw away. I pulled free. Why can't you just let me be happy? Because it should be me, she exploded. It's always been me. I'm the pretty one, the successful one, the one everyone loves. The nearby conversation stopped as heads turned our way. You want to do this here? I asked quietly. Fine, let's do it here. Sophia's eyes darted around the room, realizing she'd drawn an audience. She always did love an audience. You think I'm the villain, she said loudly. Poor Juliet, always in my shadow. But you're the one who swooped in the moment I was gone. Gone? I laughed. You mean when you abandoned the man you claimed to love? when you left him to deal with 300 guests, thousands in deposits, and a broken heart? I was confused. No, you were selfish, like always. And now you can't stand that for once. Something good happened to me instead of you. Mom pushed through the crowd. Girls, please. Stay out of this, Mom, I said firmly. For once in your life, just stay out of it. Listen to yourself, Sophia scoffed. You've changed. The old Juliet would never. The old Juliet is gone. She died the day you walked out on your wedding, and I realized I didn't have to live in your shadow anymore. Brian appeared in the terrace doorway, concern etched on his face. The sight of him gave me strength. You want to know the difference between us, Sophia? When you look at Brian, you see a prize to be won. When I look at him, I see the man who taught me I deserve to be loved. How poetic, she sneered. Did you practice that speech in the mirror? Actually, Brian's voice cut through the tension as he joined us. She said something similar to me on our third date, when she was worried she was just a replacement for you. Sophia's face fell. Brian, please, we can fix this. What we had wasn't real, he said gently. I think I always knew that, but I was too afraid to admit it. With Juliet, everything is real, including this. He turned to me, dropping to one knee. The room collectively gasped. I had a whole speech planned, he said, pulling out a small velvet box, about how you came into my life when I was at my lowest and showed me what true partnership feels like, about how your strength and kindness inspire me every day. Brian, I whispered, tears forming, but seeing you stand up for yourself, for us just now, that said it all. He opened the box, revealing a stunning emerald ring. I love you, Juliet. Marry me? Sophia made a choked sound. Mom clutched Dad's arm. Paris was filming everything on her phone. I looked at the ring, so different from the massive diamond he'd given Sophia, and saw it for what it was, a choice, a new beginning, a life where I wasn't second best. Yes, I said, my voice strong and clear. Yes, I'll marry you. The room erupted in applause as Brian slipped the ring on my finger and pulled me into a kiss. When we broke apart, Sophia was gone, but I barely noticed. I have one condition, I said, touching his face. Anything. A small wedding, just us and a few friends. He laughed, relief and joy mingling in the sound. Deal. Paris rushed forward to hug us both, and even Nathaniel raised his glass in reluctant congratulation. My parents stood frozen, but for once, their approval didn't matter. Ready to face whatever comes next? Brian asked softly. I looked at my ring, then at him, and smiled. With you? Always. The night wasn't over, but our new beginning had already started, and this time, no one could overshadow it. The morning after our engagement, I arrived at my parents' house to collect some belongings. I hadn't planned on moving in with Brian so soon, but Dad's ultimatum had made the decision for me. The front door opened before I could knock. Mom stood there, looking like she hadn't slept. Your sister's inside, she warned. She's not well. I'm just here for my things. Please, Juliet, can't we talk about this? I pushed past her into the house. Sophia sat in the living room, still wearing last night's dress, makeup smeared under her eyes. Happy now? She asked, her voice raspy. You've officially taken everything from me. You left everything, I corrected, heading for the stairs. She followed me to my bedroom. I saw the job offer too. Creative director? Really? You're sleeping your way to the top now? I started packing my clothes into a suitcase. I earned that position. Check the company's social media engagement since I started helping. The numbers don't lie. What happened to my sweet little sister? She demanded. The one who used to worship me? I stopped packing and turned to face her. She grew up, realized her worth. found someone who sees her for who she is, not who she's related to. I could destroy you both, she threatened. One word to the board about how you two got together. Go ahead, I challenged. Tell them how you abandoned your fiancé at the altar, how you blocked his number and fled the country, how you're now threatening the company because you can't handle seeing him happy with someone else. You bitch, she spat. No, Sophia, I'm just done being your victim. Dad appeared in the doorway. Your mother's crying downstairs. Of course she is. I zipped up my suitcase. Heaven forbid anyone in this family face the consequences of their actions without Mom's tears making them the victim. We raised you better than this, he said sternly. Did you? I challenged. You raised me to believe I was worth less than Sophia, that her happiness mattered more than mine, that I should be grateful for her leftovers. That's not true. Really? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through photos. My high school graduation, where you left early for Sophia's dance recital. My college acceptance dinner, canceled because Sophia had a modeling emergency. Every birthday, every achievement, overshadowed by whatever drama she created. You're being dramatic, Sophia scoffed. Am I? What about last Christmas when you announced your engagement during my promotion celebration? Or when you scheduled your wedding on the same day as my art show opening? I didn't know. You knew. You always knew. And they, I pointed at our parents, always let you. Mom appeared behind Dad, dabbing her eyes. We only wanted what was best. For Sophia, I finished. Well, guess what? I'm done. I'm done dimming my light so she can shine. I'm done apologizing for my happiness. I'm done being the other daughter. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. You okay? Need backup? Who's that? Sophia demanded. Brian checking up on his new possession? That's the difference between you and me, I said, typing a quick response. You see relationships as ownership. I see them as partnership. Partnership? She laughed bitterly. Is that what you call stealing my fiancé? I didn't steal anything. I was there when he needed someone. I listened when he talked. I saw him as a person, not a prize. And the job? Dad cut in. How do you explain that? Check the company reports. Ask Nathaniel, who, by the way, hates me, but still admitted I turned their crisis management around. I earned that position. By sleeping with the CEO, Sophia sneered. By working harder than anyone else. By proving myself. By not relying on my looks or my family name or my ability to manipulate people. I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the stairs. At the bottom, I turned back to face my family. I love Brian. He loves me. We're getting married, building a life together, and succeeding on our own terms. You can either accept that and be part of our lives, or you can keep living in Sophia's fantasy world where she's the center of everything. You'll regret this, Sophia called after me. No, I said, opening the front door. For the first time in my life, I don't regret anything. I stepped out into the morning sun, where Brian waited in his car. As I loaded my suitcase into the trunk, I heard Mom calling my name. But I didn't look back. Some chapters need to end for others to begin. Ready? Brian asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I looked at my childhood home, at the family watching from the window, and felt nothing but relief. Ready, I said. Let's go home. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee and fresh pastries as I walked into my favorite cafe. Paris was already there, waving from our usual corner table. The social media numbers for the holiday campaign are insane, she said as I sat down. The board is practically falling over themselves to praise you. Even Nathaniel admitted it was brilliant, I grinned, though he looked like he was chewing glass when he said it. Speaking of painful expressions, Paris leaned forward. Have you heard from your family? Mom keeps sending wedding magazines to the office. I return them unopened. And Sophia? I stirred my coffee. According to Instagram, she's finding herself in Bali again. At least she's consistent, Paris snorted. How's the actual wedding planning going? Small ceremony next week, just like we wanted. You, Brian's sister, and a few close friends. Your parents will lose their minds when they find out. They lost that privilege when they chose sides. I showed her the simple white dress photo on my phone. What do you think? It's perfect. Totally you. She hesitated. Someone else thinks so too. I followed her gaze to the cafe entrance. Mom stood there, clutching her purse, looking smaller than I remembered. I'll give you two a minute. Paris squeezed my hand and left. Mom approached slowly, as if afraid I'd bolt. You look well, happy. I am happy. She sat in Paris's vacant chair. I saw the dress in the window at Margaret's bridal. I knew immediately it was meant for you. Mom, please let me finish. She pulled out an envelope. Inside is a letter your grandmother wrote to me before she died. I never showed it to anyone, not even your father. I opened the envelope carefully. The paper was yellowed, the handwriting elegant but shaky. She wrote it after I chose to support your aunt over her in a family dispute. Mom continued. I was wrong then, just like I'm wrong now. I read the letter silently, tears forming as my grandmother's words hit home. She wrote about the price of blind loyalty, the courage it takes to admit mistakes, and the importance of loving your children for who they are, not who you want them to be. I've been a terrible mother to you, Mom said softly. I favored Sophia because she reminded me of myself at her age, always wanting more, never satisfied. But you're like my mother, strong, genuine, kind. Why are you telling me this now? Because I don't want to lose you. Because I saw the woman you've become, at the gala, at the house, and I'm in awe. Because I want to be there when you marry the man you love, even if I don't deserve to be. And Dad, Sophia, your father is struggling. Sophia is Sophia, but I'm here for you if you'll let me be. I studied her face, seeing for the first time the toll our family drama had taken. The wedding is next week. Small ceremony, no fuss. Perfect. She smiled through tears. Just like the dress. The cafe door chimed as Brian walked in. He stopped short seeing Mom, his expression concerned. It's okay, I called to him. We're okay. He joined us, placing a protective hand on my shoulder. Mom watched the gesture with understanding eyes. I owe you both an apology, she said. Especially you, Brian, the way we treated you. Water under the bridge, he said kindly, as long as you're here for Juliet now. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophia. Congratulations, I mean it this time. I showed it to Mom, who smiled sadly. She'll find her way eventually, just like I did. Maybe, I said, but I'm done waiting for her to change. I have my own path now. Brian squeezed my shoulder. Speaking of paths, should we tell her? Tell me what? I placed my hand over Brian's. We're expanding the digital division, opening a new office. I'm running it. As creative director and partner, Brian added proudly. Mom's eyes widened. Partner? I earned it, I said firmly. Every step, every promotion, every success. I know you did, she said. I know that now. Paris returned with fresh coffees for everyone. As we sat there talking, laughing, sharing stories, I felt the last pieces of my old life falling away. The shadow I'd lived in for so long had lifted, revealing something better, a life of my own making. To new beginnings, Brian raised his cup. To being seen, Mom added softly. I looked around at these people, my chosen family and the mother who chose to change, and smiled. To writing our own stories, I said, and making them worth telling.